Series 11 is a significant milestone in the history of PCA sim racing, marking the 5th anniversary of the league. These races have grown from less than 50 drivers in Series 1 to nearly 270 drivers in Series 10. Likely, this latest series will continue to see the same sort of explosive growth. Series 11 will host 7 events, all at a different track. Each of the 5 PCA sim racing classes, Entry, Challenge, Sport, Club, and Pro, will have 40-minute races. After a poll among the Series 10 drivers, we'll see a return for full course yellows, stronger opening lap penalties, and a mix of fixed and open setups per class. So let's kick off the celebrations as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 11 Club class, live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Cameron Aubernon is on social media, and Ryan Bauer is producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Of course, we are here for the pro class. Apologies for that, but we're here at Spa-Francorchamps. We've started off with 3 races. We're here once again, Joey, for one of the biggest classics in the racing world.
I think you put your foot on it there. One of the biggest classics in the entire world for road racing here at Spa. Turn 1 La Source, one of the incredibly tight corners on this racetrack, but I think it's all about fast speed and flow when you look at this racetrack. A couple big passing opportunities, turn 5 down there after the Kemmel Straight. You really get to use that slipstream all the way down there, guarantee that top speed if you are tucked up behind somebody. But then after that, from turn 7 all the way down to turn 14, this circuit is downhill. You have to deal with several technical corners that are either off camber or just falling away from you. And then from turn 15 all the way up to start finish, it is uphill. It is a huge climb. Turn 17, Blanchimont, one of the fastest corners in the world. It also leads into that final bus stop chicane known as turn 18 and 19. A great passing opportunity, especially if you're trying to steal away a win at the end.
Indeed, and especially with this Grand Prix layout, that finish line is right after the chicane at the bus stop. As we see Trey Drawhorn, one of the few drivers that has not set a time yet. I see Nicky Chan, Scott Kessel, Thomas Briggs, and Cigar Dewan each need a time on the board, and it's going to be easy to go a little bit over the line and lose that lap here, Joey.
Well, it's easy because there's so much runoff here at Spa. It's not really self-penalizing per se, but in iRacing, if you do go off the track, you pick up those incident points, and from there, that qualifying lap is disallowed.
So Trey's going to come to the line. Let's see if this 3rd lap, his last lap, is going to count. Actually, excuse me, that was his 2nd lap, and it did count a 2:17.5. Will jump him up to 6. That is going to be critical here today because we have 40-plus drivers. If you start from the back, you find yourself with a lot of hard work to do. Nick is ready to do some hard work, I guess, on his fashion sense, because this has got to be perhaps the most unique racing gear that I think I've seen in a long time.
You know what? That would fit in right there with my Top Ramen jumpsuit that you can wear to the track. You know, Dunkin' Donuts is good. And hey, being up here in the Pacific Northwest, I miss Dunkin'. I was in Virginia for a very long time. I would love to have some Dunkin' up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, being from the Northeast, I mean, it's no shock that Nick has got that on his car as well as on his livery. At least he's themed well. I will give him that. It's very well put together. The whole deal is Gregorado coming around now through Fanyes and going to try and finish up his last lap with just a minute to go. It's going to be close on if he can wrap this one up there from 23rd.
I love seeing all the different shots from inside of these competitors' sim rigs, whether it be virtual reality or triple screens, direct drive wheels, all these cool fancy pedals. It's definitely paying off. You mentioned 42 cars, Joe. I think what strikes my eye, the top 30 are all within 1 second of each other.
Wow. That is going to be a close race if they can manage to keep that up. It's going to be fierce out there, especially with the slipstream, also probably likely to keep drivers close to one another. Enrico is going to be able to get to the line in time for this last lap. Let's see if it counts for him, and it does. 2:17.9. That will jump him up, I believe. No, it does not. It was only a small improvement, so he'll stay in 24th.
And here in qualifying, the drivers do have 3 laps to get it done. It is solo qualifying, and you see 10 seconds remaining. That is pretty much going to do it for all of the times on the board.
Yeah, that's everybody who can set a time. I think only Rob Rodriguez snuck one in right at the very end. Kerry Brooks will start on the pole for this one as Jesse Lyon will begin from P2. Then in third, it is Rafael Amarim back to try and challenge for more wins. Teddy Franheim will be P4 and Robbie Prescott in fifth. Cigar Dewan jumps over from the Porsche Owners Club to race over here in the PCA, starting from sixth position as Trey Drawhorn will be on the inside of the next row in seventh, and Thomas Briggs in eighth. Jim Huth starts ninth today, and Nick Facciolo rounds out your top 10.
Then in 11th, we have Connor Fisk in the number 28. Rodney Campbell lined up in 12th. Chris Pies in the 13th spot. Arthur Chan in 14th. Chris Braun starting in 15th. Mark Nistor in 16th. Derek Seifer starting 17th. Nick Melograno in 18th. Nicky Chan in 19th. And Logan Grotto round out your top 20.
Ed Eisenring will start in 21st. Then it is Matthew Siddall in 22nd. Stephen Kemp will be P23, then James Franznick to his outside. Greg Rotto did get pushed down one since we watched his qualifying lap. He'll start 25th, and Justin Sang will be next to him. Lee Peterson starts 27th as Gabriel Albano will be 28th. Scott Kessel, 29th, and Chad Henson rounds out your first 30.
And then in the 212 is Joe Sinclair. Fernando Torres starting in 32nd, Robert Rose in 33rd, Rich Minkler in 34th, Dale Green starting 35th, Jake Faulkner in 36th, Rob Rodriguez here in 37th, Michael Patterson starting 38th, Lyle Edey in 39th, Ryan Cowley in the number 32 and 40th, and two more back here, Peter Sigourney in the 222 and Jacob Schum in the 38 starting 42nd.
There you can see them lined up on the grid. The entire 42 cars are only 2.3 seconds apart in qualifying. So even the back of the field, I have a feeling, is still going to be massively competitive amongst the drivers as they're just getting ready to roll off here at Spa for our last race of the event. They do five classes, I should say, and this is the fastest amongst them. So this is where you get up to the most highly skilled drivers, and Kerry Brooks is going to be starting from the top spot. Pressure is on with the best of the best breathing down his neck. What can he do from here as we get ready to weave our way through the bus stop chicane, and he'll be given control of the field. Down into La Source, it can sometimes be a bit of a melee. Are we going to see drivers get aggressive into here and lose their cool? Waiting for the call. Kerry now comes to the line, and there is the green flag. It's not the greatest of jumps behind them. They're already going three wide as somebody found themselves a very good run down to the first corner. Three wide for the lead even as we head into La Source, but the first few rows are going to be clean.
Looks like it is Kerry Brooks out front, followed by Teddy Franheim. Jesse Lyon is side by side for that second place, but he's on the driver's outside. We're going to go two wide up through Eau Rouge, and Radion almost contact. I believe we've got a car hard in the wall bouncing back onto the track.
Oh, and a few cars are going to run into one another. Unfortunately, we might have a full course yellow from this one. Cars slowing up. It has become a parking lot. They did get aggressive, but it wasn't La Source that caused the problems. It was up through Radion. And look at the separation that the top two have because of that.
Yeah, and you know what? Props to the back of the field because they saw it. They've slowed way down, and now I see the yellow flag out on the racetrack. So we are going to bring everybody back down to the safety car speed because we had that huge wreck through turns 2 and 3.
Well, that was a bit unfortunate. You talked about the difficulty of going too wide through Eau Rouge, and I was kind of worried about that too. As soon as I saw a car get a little bit of a hip check, I thought that was going to be lights out. I can't remember who it was first that got sideways, but that really started the dominoes.
Yeah, it was super tough to kind of figure out exactly where it was. I believe it was a black and a red Pfaff-colored plaid-looking Porsche, but really, I think it was side by side for what was the second place at the time, and one of them had to back out. I believe it was Jesse Lyon that backed out, and then everything just got stacked up right behind him, and It's tough when you got cold tires and cars going all over the place in front of you.
Yeah, Cyphers just about gets through, and then at the last moment, you can see a car going back across the track. I did find it was Amarim that was the first one that got loose. There you can see the end of it. He hits, I believe, side by side, or at least gets close. Jesse Lyon. Okay, so I don't think he makes contact. Oh, he just was taken aback by the sudden checkup.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Is Jesse Lyon was side by side for second place, and he was on the outside going into turn 2, so he had to back out of it. There was nothing that Jesse Lyon did wrong. It was just a misjudgment from behind. You couple everybody like forced around you here on the opening lap. It just it all unfolded rather fast.
Even in real life, this is still a very dangerous track, and thankfully in the virtual world, don't have to worry about it. But obviously, there's a lot of drivers that have had their race compromised early on. This is from Schum at the very back of the field. How much does he have to check up here to make it through this? Let's see. Body parts, well, not body parts, but parts of the car everywhere. Wow, yeah, just kind of eases up, and eventually it looks like things have mostly cleared by the time he reached it.
And that's what I was talking about. I think that was great respect for everybody else around. When you're in the back of the pack and you see an accident in front, they checked up. Sure, there was other cars involved, but look at everybody nice and orderly here. They see an accident in front. They don't go piling into it. A very nice piece of avoidance, really, by the back half of this field.
Yeah, I always stress this, but I really mean it. This league is one of the best at really drilling it into the drivers' heads that they have a clean start, that they try and respect one another like it's their real car. Rodney Campbell is grateful this is not his real car. I think he's the one that bounces back across, and just becomes a pinball. I mean, there's nothing he can do once that car just was kind of sent on its course.
And to get even a little technical about the wreck, you say, well, hey, how come these drivers aren't holding the brakes? You know, they're sliding back and forth across the track. Well, they are actually holding the brakes, but these cars, they have ABS, so it doesn't always lock down that trajectory. These drivers are doing everything they can to not avoid, or I should say not slide back on the track, and just kind of a product of having so many cars and such a large accident.
I love that we get a little bird's eye view of all of it here. It'll hopefully clear things up a little bit there, because looking at it head on, it can just look like an outright mess. But yeah, very cool heads prevailed. And honestly, I think you could tell after the wreck, I believe before even the yellow came out, most of the drivers looked like they just stayed slow, because they knew as soon as there was that much smoke, this thing is not going to stay green.
Nice view from Chris Pies right there, getting through. You got a hip check going into turn number 2, I saw there. And then, like you were saying, everybody after that checking their mirrors. They saw that there was a huge accident, didn't push any limits there going down into 5, 6, and 7. And just get everybody back on track here, and let's get this race restarted.
Ryan Cowley from 32nd position. Again, just going to kind of pick a lane. He doesn't try and weave back and forth until he sees a car halted. Thankfully, he had enough room off to the right-hand side to just pinch through there and make it. But as we come back live, they are already behind the pace car. Now, in the past, they had shortened it, I believe, by at least a lap to get them going. But I don't think we've reached that stage yet. So probably next time by, they're going to turn the lights off on the pace car to get them running. And the other time that we did have a full course yellow on this one in the sport class, they unfortunately had so many of them that the drivers didn't even have to pit because they had saved so much fuel. So I think or at least they pit very late. I think this one they should still have to, but it is going to make it a very, very short final stint.
Back when I was still part of the Cool Kids group and racing cars out there, my crew chief always told me, drive it like a minivan, right? Put it in that tall gear, just drive it as slow as you possibly can. conserve as much gas as you can. You're also conserving the tires, everything else when you do it too. And Joe, you just brought up a great point, is that if you can be the one that stretches it further than everybody else and doesn't have to make that stop, if that's possible, then that can secure you a checkered flag.
It was to the point that on air we were asking the question, is there an actual rule that you must take a pit stop, or is it just the fuel limited? And the answer is you don't have to take a pit stop. There's no rule for that. So we have that one now for future seasons if we ever get a place with a lot of cautions. And this one is a bit unique, I will say, because this is one of the longest tracks that you're going to find, not just here in this season, but on iRacing in general. I believe it's something like 7 kilometers in length.
Well, and that's exactly what it's got going for it, the length, and that makes for long safety car laps. And when we deal with a timed race out here, I'm checking 4 minutes and 14 seconds was the last lap under safety car. So even just 3 laps, that takes out a huge chunk of this 40-minute race.
Exactly. So if we wind up getting a safety car in any of the other races, it probably won't be quite the same. It won't be as long, but still waiting. And there we go. Lights just went out on the safety car now. So they're going to be taking off this next time by, and Brooks will have the lead. We had a ton of position changes. The only 3 cars that are still in the same spot that they began is Kerry Brooks in the lead, Jim Huth in 9th, and Nick Melorano in 18th. Everybody else has been shuffled all around.
Yeah, Arthur Chan in that number 50 car, I'm looking at him in 6th place. He moved up 8 positions. I mean, courtesy of that giant wreck, and there's several more cars basically in the back half of the field that are up nearly 10 spots from others' misfortunes.
You got to take those when they happen and kind of grab those opportunities. You don't know how often they're going to come about. But this one will be single file, so hopefully we'll have better chances to be able to get through without another big wreck happening, Joey. And honestly, I mean, when you get to this level for a lot of these drivers, I would hope and think that you won't see the same mistake twice.
I think that going single file will help limit the kerfuffleness out there. But remember, we had 30 cars within 1 second in qualifying, and I'm looking, we've only eliminated 2 of those cars. So am I going to expect to see racing that's more spread apart? Absolutely not. It just might not be as hectic for the first couple of corners.
I'm going to have to go and tell DJ Clark that he's added to the vernacular, the kerfuffleness now.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming out of Stavelo as just a couple more corners before we get going. The reason so many did survive is because they have a spare car in this series. There we see our wall of drivers ready to take off and get going once again. So those drivers that did get involved in the accident were able to get back in. And the nice thing is, because of the yellow flag, it looks like every single one of them was able to get back out on the lead lap. So we haven't had anybody set a lap down in these early stages. But it's Campbell and Amram, unfortunately, that are out after that opening wreck. Amram, I almost wonder if it's out of embarrassment after that beginning to the season.
We're getting these awesome shots of the kind of the sun going down. You see the reflection off of the pavement. It is the afternoon, and I was looking at the sim date late in December. Got a nice cool day, 65-degree ambient, 65-degree track temperature. And when I read that, Joe, that tells me these drivers are going to be aggressive because the track is fast.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we found out sunset in Belgium at this time of year is 4:45 p.m. So it hits the horizon early as the green flag is out. And let's hit the racetrack early as we go 3 wide again for the lead on the second try. Thomas Briggs, Framheim looking for it down into La Source, and I think maybe Briggs is going to be able to take it as he's got the inside. Neither's willing to give away. It's a game of chicken once again into Eau Rouge.
Oh, please. Hopefully we don't have the same stack-up issues side by side between the 2 leaders. They don't make contact, but that was a huge wiggle from Briggs. He's going to lose several positions, and now it's going to be side by side between Framheim, Brooks, and Lyon is in the tow.
I think Briggs actually did make contact, but he got away with it just barely, and he lost a ton of positions as he had to gather the car up. He falls down to 8th as Framheim is going to lead them into Lacombe for the first time in anger. We do have a wreck at the front of the field, this time coming out of Lacombe, and that's going to be Kerry Brooks, our pole sitter, who is left at the side of the track.
It was Jesse Lyon making contact with Kerry Brooks back there. I did not expect it, and you see him losing all sorts of track position. That has freed Framheim. He's 2 seconds in front of Cigar Dewan, who has a 1.5 seconds in front of Nick in the 21.
I know we're on the road side of racing here, but I'm going to borrow from the oval side. I'm seeing a lot more take and a lot less give at the start of this race.
I think 40 drivers out there on the racetrack, and they all realize that the field was so close. You got to make those aggressive moves if you want the track position.
All right, so here is with Kerry Brooks, our leader, side by side into Lacombe. And this can happen plenty, okay, so he came around the outside, so it wasn't Brooks initially. It was Framheim with him, and the two just come together. And unfortunately for our pole sitter, he just wound up kind of on the racing line there. This is from Cigar Dewan's view, and he's going to have just a face full of action. Can he make it through? Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, what a sneaky move.
Nice decision making there from the car, the 501 that's now running in second place, and quite honestly trying to run down our leader. And it's just such an unfortunate break for Brooks back there. Two cars arguing over the same spot.
Yeah, looks like as we check back in on our leader there, Framheim has a gap of about 1.8, but we got the battle for 6 as well there. Trey Drawhorn chasing on Jim Huth, who is up by 4 positions here at the start. Once you get into the top 10, especially at the pro class, that's not easy to gain that many spots. Looking back from that 5th place machine, he's going to give a huge tow to Drawhorn, who's got a massive run now. Great exit off of Radion. And is he going to try and make the move? Yes, he's going to stick his nose in, Joey.
You see Drawhorn on driver's right side, exactly where he needs to go, and Jim Huth is actually just going to back out of it, realized he was not in a position to argue over that spot. He's going to end up following the 395.
So a little bit of a switch around this time, and this is Trey Drawhorn on your screen. You can see him there looking in the mirrors just a little bit, watching Huth to see if he's going to try and come back at him down into Rivage, but no dice that time. He'll stick behind him as they plunge down through Speaker's Corner.
He actually did a nice job stretching it out there through that corner exit, starting to leave that number 12 and starting to set his sights on what is the 4th place. But something that's caught my eye here, Joe, Ed Eisenring, he might be a little bit of a cork in the bottle. I'm seeing almost 15 cars lined up here arguing for what is the 9th place position.
Yeah, and that's he's just ahead of Chris Pies, who is trying to see if he can find some way past him, but he's starting to fall off a little bit, so hopefully Eisenring can get away from the group of angry drivers looking for an overtake. Nicky Chan is in there, Franznik, Arthur Chan as well, as we watch from on board and looking at that train of cars up ahead. But once again, you're going to see them come together with the slipstream. This is Albano watching, and he is sitting in 19th place, way back down in that train.
Matthew Siddle just got turned around. That was a huge impact going into Blanchemont. So unfortunate for the number 23 car. That was one that you didn't really expect to see coming as the cars feed their way through the bus stop chicane, come and complete lap number 5.
Yeah, and they have that paved runoff out there, but he got turned into the grass, so there was almost no slowing down that car before he hit the barrier. Let's watch Siddall's incident from on board, as he definitely gets hooked pretty hard on this one. He had the inside. You know what, though? It looks like he wanted to go back to the racing line, but was not clear.
Yeah, and you know, it's tough. You got to look at all of the different angles. Well, actually, here we go. We're going to find out, does the car on the inside drift up through the racing line, or does the car on the outside come down and hook the back bumper? we are about to see. And Joe, you called it perfectly. I believe it was Sidal that came over onto the racing line, didn't leave enough room for his competition.
Well, you always got to be wary of that. You need that clear on the right-hand side before you move completely over. Honestly, probably in a corner like that, you want to give just a little bit of margin too, because you don't know when that other guy is going to be turning in. But yeah, he kind of did that one to himself, I fear, and unfortunately paid the price in a big way down into the corner. Chris Pies in P9 is still being challenged by that group of cars behind him. Eisenring's now running away from him. It's Nicky Chan in the purple, black, and green hounding him.
Yeah, I really thought it was Ed Eisenring that was the cork, but check that out. He has ran away here, so you are right. Chris Pies getting pressure from the number 3 car. Number 50 right in tow, and I mean, I could keep reading off the car numbers, and you can see them on the screen as we look out the back of Chris Pies. It's like a bunch of hungry sharks, and they are all chasing after him.
And at a track where the cars are going to be pulled along so easily, especially right here up towards Blanchimont. That was a great run from Chan. Nicky could have a shot if he wants to go side by side, and he does. Last time this didn't go well through this corner, and they're going to try and hold out. Both of them slowed up. Look at them stack up behind them, and in fact, they're going to come together. Nicky Chan hit into the wall. They bounce across the track, and everybody scatters to avoid.
Yeah, more contact at one of the fastest areas of the racetrack. You see one of the cars already going down into pit lane, but something to report on. Thomas Briggs up here has made the move for P2, but Cigar Dewan, he's not giving up. Cigar's on driver's right. I don't think that he's in position to make a move here, but he says, I'm not getting rid of this second place so easy.
Boy, there are some drivers that are going to be unhappy after this one. That is for sure. Coming back, we see the battle. I love when we do this, the forward and back angle, each car giving you their perspective in the heat of the battle. And into the braking here for the battle for 4th place. Drawhorn will continue to lead over Facciolo. Excuse me, no, this is between Briggs and Dewan. This is for 2nd place, actually.
And we're going down the hill here. This is all downhill until we reach turn number 15. I love this racetrack. You mentioned it at the very top of the show, probably one of the world-class greats. It doesn't really get much better than this. And honestly, if you're a driver and don't like Spa, there's got to be something a little wrong with you.
As we watch Dewan continue to stick with Briggs, but he's a little bit far back now. Needs to get within attacking range to see if he can do anything with it. As there we get the battle on your right hand screen as well to tell you exactly how far apart they are. If they do start fighting, it's only about 1.2 seconds down to Trey Drawhorn. They're going to find a few more friends involved pretty quickly.
Let's see how they handle this corner exit here. It is so important because it leads all the way up this giant hill into the bus stop chicane. Pretty equal distant between Briggs and Dewan back here. And the other thing that I'm noticing, Joe, we haven't mentioned our leader at all, the number 14. He's not even on the screen. Stretched it up to 3 seconds. He's just on cruise control.
Yeah, we can see a tiny little speck in the distance. That is your leader of Teddy Framheim. Dewan, though, is going to try and reel in the likes of the 13 through the bus stop chicane. Looks like he couldn't get a better exit, so they stay as is as they tick off yet another lap. We haven't even talked all that much yet about how the pit stops are going to go. We're still well within the pit window. Probably going to be seeing them going until about 10 minutes to go. Fernando Torres, though, one of our newer drivers, hailing from the Puerto Rico region.
I'm seeing some cool helmets there next to him, some nice artwork on the wall. Maybe even another mirror. Oh, that's a mirror in the background. I was wondering if he's got a buddy over there in another rig.
had a bit of a bird in the cage moment of, oh, it's a friend with me now. But so he works his way up through Eau Rouge. Let's see, where is he sitting right now, the number 42? Trying to find.
He's in 16th spot right now.
And, well, he's actually gained 16 positions, so he's having a very good first showing for this race. I think he's represented himself well. out in the pro class. So let's see what he can do from here. And now that he's gained the positions, will he have to play defense, or does he have more under his hat to try and unleash to chase down Faulkner, Sinclair, Malabranio up in front of him? Do you have a bit of a stack up behind him? You can kind of see a group forming. Rodriguez, Cowley, Green, Eddie, all starting to come together. And look at the bottom here, Joey. Battle for second is heated up.
And curious enough, look at who it is drawn in. Trey Drawhorn back there. He's actually the fastest car on the racetrack, a 2:17.6 that last time around. Compare that to our leader, a 2:18.0. So I would watch out for that black and gold car, the third car in line. If he gets in clean air, I'd watch out.
Yeah, it's definitely heated up, and it does appear that the battle for ninth also is still raging on. That's Franznik that we're riding with, so it's changed faces just slightly with all those cars so close together. In fact, I think Gregorado's got a very good chance here if he can withstand the dirty air through Blanchimont. He drops back just a little bit, and that's not going to be enough, at least at this stage, while the leaders head down into La Source. We're going to now full screen here on this battle for ninth. Look at that snake of cars out of the chicane.
Yeah, huge amount of cars giving chase here. It's not just the number 771 trying to overtake for that P9 position. In fact, we're going to get the shots from inside the sim rig of this number 771. Look at that counter steer, really having to wrestle that car on the exit of turn number 1. It's such an important corner. You got to roll onto that throttle, not get into the traction control, because it leads you out onto this incredibly fast Kemmel straightaway.
He's hailing from your club as well there, Joey, up in the Northwest, and he's got a very good run once again. Last time he couldn't hold out because of Blanchimont, but there's no such case up through here. He's going to poke his nose down into Lacombe, and it looks like he's going to complete the pass. Very textbook there for the black and green of Gregorado.
Yeah, nice job by Enrico, and now he is trying to set sail here. Pretty much don't look in your mirrors. Just attack the racetrack in front of you. Consider it a practice session and limit those mistakes.
Absolutely. Once again, on the bottom of your screen, the battle for P2. It's really looking like another case of best of the rest, much like we saw in the club class last night with the leader kind of running away from his rivals. This time, though, definitely helped out by the accident. This is down in 23rd on the top of your screen. That's Derek Cyphers being chased by Robbie Prescott, who normally is way up at the top. He started 5th. He's lost 19 positions, and I think that is because he had to come in and take his spare car due to that incident at the start of the race.
I would expect definitely, yeah, had some damage considering where he had started, where that wreck was. So working the way up through the field, but looking at this battle for second place on the bottom of your screen, Cigar Dewan still challenging for what is second. Trey Drawhorn in third, and it's now become kind of a 5-car race. Nick Faccioli in the number 21, he's in 5th. Jim Huth is in 6th place. They are all kind of within a line here, so Thomas Briggs needs to be on it because he's starting to lose touch with Framheim out front.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated seeing drivers switch between series that I call, because there's sometimes where you see drivers who are very, very good in one series, but they're a big fish in a small pond. Then suddenly they get with all the other bigger fish and they suddenly don't look as impressive. But Cigar Dewan, I gotta say, he is really backing up his speed considering what he's up against here in the PCA.
It's funny you kind of mentioned the big fish in a small pond, and there's a lot of different racing leagues, whether that's real world or even in the sim here. And you're right, you can kind of cherry pick and go in there and look really good. But if you ask me as a competitor, I want to go where the big fish are because I want to see how I swim. And if I need to get better, what better comparison than the best that's out there?
Indeed, I agree. Really set yourself up against the hardest. Looks like Stephen Kemp pitted this lap. Dale Green did as well. Rich Minkler, I think, has been in recently, although he had a black flag, so it may have been for that. But we have a few drivers affecting their pit stops before the end, so they should be good to go from there. And that could give them chances to maybe pick up a few positions. Justin Sang is another one that's had a bit of a bad day. He's all the way down in P26, and yes, he's another one that had to make a visit to the pits today.
I think what I'm most curious about with this battle for second place on the bottom of the screen is if the competitors are dealing with any sort of aero wash. Spa is a very fast racetrack. A lot of the corners are medium to high-speed corners, so it kicks up a lot of that dirty air behind it. Really, once they get lined up behind it, it seems like they can't quite be aggressive because remember that 395 Trey Drawhorn, he closed it in so rapidly, but he hasn't been able to do anything about it.
Well, you talked about your preferences in terms of competition. What about in terms of setup? Because while the first two last week were both fixed, this is an open setup one that we're running here. How do you take Spa since there's so many fast corners, but there's also a lot of long straights?
I think that you can compare it to something like a Road America, Joe, where you can actually have two different setups. A qualifying setup that's kind of medium downforce out there, that'll provide the fastest lap time around this place. It'll provide the most confidence. However, when you go into the race, you got to ditch all of that wing out of there. You have to have a race setup that is low on the downforce, because if you get passed on the Kemmel straightaway, there is nothing you can do about it. You need to be the car that's making that top end speed. That is what makes a fast race car.
I think that sounds reasonable to me. And Prescott, looks like Rose, Patterson, all feel like it's a reasonable time to take a pit stop, though, at this stage. So yet more drivers now getting their fuel, getting back out there as we hop on board the Dunkin' Donut man, Melorano, who is battling for 11th spot. Albano in front of him is gaining on Franznik in the meantime. We're going to see front row seat to a pass. No, not this lap.
You know, looking at the Dunkin' setup, I think the only thing that would be a good addition here, Joe, is maybe two donut holes as the eyes on the VR there. You're gonna give him ideas. And I mean, he's already decorated his other one with Dunkin' Donuts. As our director just pointed out, he's got a VR headset with a Dunkin' Donuts wrap. I didn't even know they made wraps for VR headsets. Oh, you can print whatever you want these days. Hey, here's some more ideas. I think I could see a headphone holder on the side of that holding some donuts.
There you go. He's got more yet to do, I'm sure, if he really wants to go whole hog on this one. Now, we've had some drivers, we talked about this earlier, that have been taking advantage of the problems that others have had. Ryan Cowley is our biggest mover right now, up, I believe, 25 positions.
Started back in 40th, believe it or not, so all the way back there. Not the last row, but the second to last row, and has a little bit of clean air in front of him. And as you can see directly behind, Rob Rodriguez is giving chase. And I believe that Rob Rodriguez here in this number 15 car is one of the newer drivers to the series.
Franznik is at the lead of this little group here, coming down into the braking. And we've checked in actually on Cowley in the meantime, coming into here with Rob Rodriguez just behind him, the battle for P15 onto the main straight. Yeah, there you see that other group just up ahead as well, nose to tail for many of them, about 5 cars, all battling for what is 10th position.
And as you see on the bottom of the screen, Briggs is going defensive for that second place position. Cigar Dewan in the slipstream, not quite close enough, closes it in on the brakes there. Just trying to draw it in ever so closer every single corner here. Here comes Trey Drawhorn, actually with a really good run coming down the hill here. He's going to poke his nose out. A big block from Dewan. It's going to hold him off.
And similar situation there on the top of your screen. Albano going defensive on Franznik to try and keep him from, or no, excuse me, he made his way past him. So it was Franznik that was going defensive on Albano, but unable to hold him back. Trey Drawhorn, who has been just holding back here in fourth, sees a podium. It's within sight, literally in front of him, but hasn't been able to make it past them. At what point does he have to get aggressive to try and see if he can get by one of those two?
And we were talking about the setups just a short while ago. I really wonder if Thomas Briggs has a lower wing angle and is just able to defend on the straightaway from having a faster top speed. That might be what's preventing from Cigar Dewan going up there and making any sort of move.
Looking back from Dewan now in that third position. He drops off of Briggs by a couple car lengths. Strawhorn has a good chance if he can get the run off of Blanchimont. That's always the most difficult part. He's trying so hard that he goes off track, collects an incident point with 4 wheels off there. Under braking, it's not going to give him the opportunity. 8 minutes left to go with over 2 minutes per lap. They're really coming down to the final circuits.
I'll be curious to see if all of these cars are going to be able to stretch it out that whole way. We haven't mentioned that pit stop word at all yet, and it's kind of lingering in the back of my mind, especially if you are running flat out like Briggs is. What is the fuel consumption, and can they make it?
Yeah, we still have about 14 cars that need to pit in, but Facciolo just pitted, and it looks like Jim Huth as well, continuing to follow our battle on top here for a second, third, and fourth position. You could see a nice little fight for 27th as well. And in fact, I think there's a good chance there, Joey, for an opportunity.
Here we go, down the Kemmel straightaway and into that bus stop chicane. One car getting by the other. A very nice move there on the bottom of the screen. Everything's going to stack up. Now there's more opportunities.
That's Faulkner on green, and Green's on the back foot. Lyle Eddy knows that. He thought about it for a brief moment. In fact, he shows his nose a second time, but then gets back to the racing line. You can see the headlights coming on the cars as they automatically turn on after a certain time of day. And we have basically come very close to that sunset actually happening now, about a half an hour away. So we won't see it before the race is over. And we just went by, actually, Justin Sang stopped at the side of the road there. He had an accident.
This is an angry little group that we are watching here. Not only is Faulkner able to hold them off here, but I also see Arthur Chan back there, who started way far up in this race, I believe up in 14th. So we've got some fast cars making their way through. It doesn't matter if you're up inside the top 5 or what is battling for, I'm checking 26th position. The racing is tough.
Yep, this is Arthur Chan, usually a little bit farther up the order than this, but he actually also got a penalty, so that kind of set him backwards even more than the accident we saw him get involved with earlier in the race. That was really unfortunate through Blanchimont, the two of them coming together.
Leaders
and
in.
This is Justin Sang with his accident. You're right, it looks like pretty much the top of the field. Yeah, everybody at the front is pitting now.
Watch this gray and green car. Oh, just really loose, wicked loose, as they call it in the Northeast. And once you get that yaw angle, it is tough to stop it when you're doing 150 miles an hour.
Cigar de Juan hits his stall dutifully just as Framheim finishes his and exits out. Now, because they have they've saved some fuel during that full course yellow, they have even shorter stops than before. So you're going to have to really be on top of it, making sure you're in and out, and hopefully have changed your settings and checked to see how much fuel you had set on the car to be taken during your pit stop.
As you say that, Joe, remember who came in second place? Thomas Briggs. Well, I'm noticing he had a 14-second stop. Compare that to everybody else, about a 5 to 6 second stop. He is exited in what is the 7th place position, so terrible for him. I'm looking at the 394 of Trey Drawhorn. Played it to a T out there, moved up 2 to 2nd.
Checking to see what the speed was as Briggs crossed the line. If he had a penalty, that would be a very short penalty, though, I think. And no, I think he got down to the right speed, so that wasn't a penalty. That is very strange for Thomas to be that much longer than everybody else.
Yeah, it might have just been a missed fuel calculation or something. I think the biggest difference between the real world and the sim world here, Joe, is that you are the crew chief, you are the strategist, and you are the driver. You have to manage all of those things at the same time. It can be a lot when you're in a battle.
Yeah, I've always kind of hated that part. But, I mean, thankfully, iRacing has started to implement things within the sim that you can set it to calculate your fuel on its own and also tell it how aggressive you want to be. So possibly something that he did not check that and make sure that it's set up the way it needs to be. Stephen Kemp here sitting in 20th. By the way, I was kind of watching Briggs. He had another off coming through Puhan, but thankfully did not wreck the car. This is kind of an interesting one, not something I've seen often. He's matched the orange of his car to the orange of his rig.
Yeah, I do like it. And, I was going to say it was an air-cooled Porsche on top of an air-cooled PC, but I see water lines in there. That is a very nice build, a custom loop water-cooled PC with a little race car sitting on top.
Love it. Looks fantastic. A very nifty-looking setup for him. 37 carrying on to see what positions he can make up because we're down to 3 minutes left. It is 2 laps to go.
Watching the number 37 car on your screen here. See exactly as they come up into this bus stop chicane, dealing with a lot of traffic directly in front of them. The race might have only 2.5 minutes left, but plenty of positions are still up for grabs.
They're going to get at least one of them. Chad Henson just pitted, so there goes one of them. Oh, battle for fourth, though, here on your top of your screen. Facciolo is going to have to play defense on Chris Braun. Braun to the outside, down to the braking of Lacombe. They're going to actually glance against one another, but they'll get away with it. Braun moves ahead briefly, but it's back to a right-hander for Malmedy. He carries the speed better. He'll still have the nose ahead. It's not done yet. Down into Rivage here. Facciolo, now he gives way as a big defensive chop from Braun puts paid to that.
You see on the bottom of the screen here, it is still Cigar Dewan chasing Trey Drawhorn. I was comparing the times on the timing board here. Drawhorn had a fantastic outlap, about 1.5 seconds faster than what Cigar Dewan did, but he has really cleared it and kind of reeled it back in here.
I have to say, I was really impressed by that move by Braun. Did not let that one go away. In the meantime, we've moved to Scott Kessel, looking backwards at Sinclair. Oh, he has a hiccup down through no-name corner. That's going to make him go 3 wide towards Pujon. Torres could get it 2 for 1. He's down to the inside. He's gotten the first one, tries to get the second one, but they bang doors. He gets spun around and it all goes awry.
Yeah, now you see him out there, the number 42, getting it back going. I also see Frasnick. He's on the racetrack, but lost several positions. You see Torres not too happy with that one. Looks like a damaged car as well.
It was always going to be a risky move heading into that corner 3 and then 2 wide, and unfortunately it didn't work out in the end. I can't blame him for giving it a try, though. It's the end of the race.
As we watch, Teddy Framheim just in front of this takes the white flag, so we are down to the final lap of this race. Cigar Dewan still chasing Trey Drawhorn for what is that second place position.
I don't think we expected the gap to be 5 seconds by the end of the race, considering what we saw in qualifying. But the accidents early in the race definitely kind of put paid to that a little bit. It's been a lot more heated for that P2, with Drawhorn still holding it over Dewan. You can see there at the bottom of your screen, and actually in the background of the top too, as well, with the leader just about seeing them way off in the distance in his mirrors.
I keep saying how close this field was stacked in qualifying, the top 30 within 1 second. Well, Joe, the podium right now is proving that if you want to stand on it, you not only have to be fast, but you got to be consistent. Our leader, 2:18.03. Trey Drawhorn, second place, 2:18.08. Cigar Dewan, 2:18.04. It is, oh no, Cigar Dewan just went off as I was making that comment. He falls all the way back to 5th.
Oh, which means Chris Braun's move wound up being important because he's now on the podium. There you see Dewan trying to collect the car and get it back going into Stavolo for Teddy Framheim. It's not over. Excuse me, he's into Fanyes. It's not over until that checkered flag falls, and it has not come down yet. So drivers have to watch out for the mistakes. Jim Huth now smells an opportunity. He sees Cigar Dewan in front of him. He knows that a mistake has been made and he's been rattled.
Yeah, and just like we saw from Dewan, Framheim just has to keep it together through Blanchimont, the fastest corner on the racetrack, and then make sure you hit your brake marker for what is the final bus stop chicane.
Through that final left-hander there. He is clean and he hits the binders, doesn't overshoot it. Nice and tidy. Teddy started this one from 3rd, but he is going to finish it at the top as he wins the Pro Class here in PCA Sim Racing Series 11.
action-packed here in Belgium. Looks like Trey Drawhorn will cross the line in what is the second place. And then it will be Chris Braun rounding out the podium as you see Jim Huth giving chase to Cigar Dewan, falls to 5th on that final lap.
This Ed Eisenring up 13 spots at the sharp end of the field. And Albano, just behind Gregorato here, is up 17 spots in that 131. He started this 28th position and finished just outside of top 10.
I think our biggest mover as this gaggle of Porsches crosses the line, it's going to be Rodriguez in the number 15, up 20 positions.
Well, like I said, when the chances are there, you got to grab them with both hands. And this was definitely a race that saw opportunities open up and doors were shut for others, unfortunately. Amazingly, I believe we're going to see every driver that's still on track finish on the lead lap, and that's 38 of them.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the very, very final car, the number 41 of Richard Minkler still going around. And Joe, you're right. They are going to collect the checkered flag. Incredibly impressive from this entire group of drivers.
Whew. Well, let's take a breath as we go through the finishing order. Teddy Framheim has taken the opening blow as he'll win today, and Trey Drawhorn will finish second behind him. Chris Braun with an excellent late race move that wound up netting him a podium finish after starting from 15th. Nick Faciola will finish in 4th as Cigar Dewan will be P5. Jim Huth winds up 6th as Thomas Briggs was 7th, and Ed Eisenring, as we said, gained a lot of positions to finish P8. Chris Pies managed to get himself into 9th in the end, and Gregorato wound up 10th.
Gabriel Albano in 11th spot. Logan Grotto will finish in 12th. Nick Melagrano here in 13th. Then we have Joe Sinclair in 14th, Stephen Kemp in 15th, Derek Cyphers in 16th, Rob Rodriguez in 17th, Mark Nistor in 18th, Chad Henson 19th, and Robert Rose rounds out your top 20.
21st goes to James Franznick, with Faulkner finishing in 22nd, Dale Green P23. Lyle Eddy was 24th today, followed by Arthur Chan in 25th and Ryan Cowley 26th. Poor Kerry Brooks is going to be fuming after this one. Started from pole, finished in 27th. Lee Peterson was 28th, and Robbie Prescott also finds himself wasting a good opportunity from 5th to 29th. It's Jacob Schum finishing 30th.
And then despite finishing 31st, Michael Patterson up 7 positions back here. Matthew Siddall in 32nd. Peter Sigourney also with a great race, up 8 positions himself to finish 33rd in that 222. Fernando Torres in 34th. Scott Kessel in 35th. Nicky Chan in 36th. Jesse Lyon 37th. Rich Minkler is going to be the final car to see the checkered flag in 38th. And then unfortunately, Justin Sang, Connor Fisk, Rodney Campbell, and Rafael Amorim did not finish today's race.
Real shame to see, especially some of those names that started so high up the order, Amorim, Campbell, and Fisk amongst them. Well, this wasn't quite the start that I expected for the pro class, Joey, but it certainly set the bar high in terms of entertainment.
Well, I just think that whenever you pack 40-plus cars on the racetrack, it is going to be an exciting race. Is there going to be contact? Yeah, for sure. I don't think that you can eliminate contact everywhere on a race like this, especially when all of the cars are the exact same make. Everybody's pretty much equal on speed from what we saw in qualifying. So I'm not surprised that there was incidents, and I think that the field handled them extremely well when they approached it. So tip of the cap to the drivers. Could things be cleaned up? Yeah. Are there going to be tempers afterwards? Yeah. But as they say, it's a motor race.
Absolutely, and we'll have more motor racing, but this is it for tonight. Make sure and join us next Wednesday when we finally leave Spa and head to VIR on January 17th for the Challenge class. A big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as a huge thanks to our team tonight, Joey, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. Thanks so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.